Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Mantry, Associate Editor of Audioholics. I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And Tom does not have his fancy new light to brighten up his lovely
It
face
is the
if
same
you're
light.
watching
I
the
just didn't
YouTube.
point
Is
it out
it?
my face anymore. It was blinding me. It's very blinding. And what are you wearing? What is
I'm
that?
it's a shirt
But
over a
you're like
shirt.
channeling my old grunge days. What is this? This is
Ah.
V-neck underneath there, white
There is a
V-neck.
V-neck. There's a white V-neck underneath a shirt. This is you got to come to YouTube to see this, folks. Wow. Ooh.
That's the worst. Anyways, fine, whatever. Must be
The
cold where you are in
It is
Vancouver.
actually. This is like the first time I've put on a long sleeve shirt in like a year.
I'm back in
That's how
shorts and
cold it
a
is.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's going to be 80 tomorrow here. Rode the motorcycle to work today was great. It was just beautiful day for a motorcycle ride. It was great. Loved it.
You're out of January. Time to
I'm
get
sorry.
into short
It's
sleeves and
spring,
motorcycles. That's
February,
right.
spring. It's actually supposed to cool down at some point again. Somebody said I don't remember. I don't care. All right. This is AV Rant, the podcast where we answer your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask.
Hmm.
You can ask by emailing us at rob@avrant.com, tom@avrant.com, and actually question at avrant.com.
Yes.
All three would be best, but if you're only going to email one, email question. That gets you on the list, and we will answer you mostly in chronological order.
Correct.
You can come to the website, which is www.avrant.com, and leave us a comment there. You can go to facebook.com/avrantpodcast. That's all one word. You can hit us up on Twitter at First Reflect for Rob, at avrant_Tom for me, and at Austin Pond for Austin. Austin. Ten, not TON. I always get that wrong.
Yep. That's our producer. That's where the question at avrant.com questions go.
That's where it does. And he puts it on the podcast list.
Hmm.
Austin also has his own podcast. It is We Watch Movies. It is a podcast about HTML coding,
Ooh.
specifically how to code tables in HTML, because it's a big problem.
I
Have you ever tried to code a table in HTML?
I have not.
It is not easy. And
I'll have to listen to their podcast to find out how.
you'll have to, yes, lots of verbal descriptions of that.
Given that
Lots.
it's We Watch Movies, though, I might still be lost by the end of it as to how
Could
to
be.
code tables in
Could
HTML.
be.
There's a possibility.
Could be. All right, I was productive this week. I finally set up the Jansen speakers, the
Nice.
bookshelf speakers,
Hmm.
which I just got an email from him too. They are getting. He's eschewing the dealers. He's tried to work with dealers. He hates dealers.
Mm.
He told me that. He didn't
Hmm.
actually tell me he hated dealers, but he didn't like working with them because they were hard to work with. So he's selling direct from his website, which means everything just got cheaper.
Yep.
So go to Jansen, JANZSCN or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, Jansen electrostatic speakers, and look up their stuff. Everything's going to be cheaper than it was before. So these speakers, bookshelf speakers, have electrostatic panel, a woofer underneath, and a tweeter on the side. Okay, a
Oh,
tweeter
okay.
on the
I didn't
side.
know about the tweeter on the side
I
thing,
did
but
not either until I got the speakers and set them up. Now,
hmm.
I talked to him. He mentioned that everybody who orders these speakers always goes for it's an option. It's for tweeter on the side. They always go for the option. I'm like, well, that's
Hmm.
stupid. I probably wouldn't go for the option. But anyways, I set them up, and there's a little dial in the back, and the
Sure.
dial engage is how much the tweeter is engaged, the side
Okay.
tweeter. So whenever I had it set, when I set them up, I turned on whatever I turned on, Netflix or something like that, and it was just playing something in the background. And I flicked that I started turning that knob up. I was like, whoa, that's a big difference.
Oh,
There's
okay.
like the spaciousness of the speaker got
Mm.
considerably larger.
Hmm.
So that said, I've mostly been I've done a little bit of A/Bing with the different tweeter side settings, but I haven't really done any real critical listening with them. I'm just doing like casual stuff. They're very, as you would expect with electrostatic, the high end stuff, the
Hmm.
little noises, the transients are really super crisp and very, very well articulated. That's about the only thing I've noticed so far. But I've been doing casual listening with them, and most of it's been movies and TV and stuff
So
like
I
that.
guess those tweeters go on the outside, not the
Yes.
inside. Yeah.
Well, I would hope so because that's where I put
Yeah.
them. So yeah,
It would
no,
make more sense. I mean,
I,
that's more sidewall reflection is what's happening,
that's
I
all
would
it's
assume.
doing.
So,
That's right.
yeah.
And when you have an electrostatic panel, it kind of makes sense that they might want that.
Yeah,
Which
since they're
actually,
narrow dispersion
yeah,
typically.
what kind of works for me, like from just cerebrally as I'm thinking about them. it makes sense if you're going to use these as for both critical listening and casual listening. If you want something for movies that you can, that you can make them a little bit more spacious and a little bit more open
Mhm.
and blend better with everything else. But if you're going to do some real critical two-channel listening, you turn that off
Right,
and
yeah.
go for the more
Head in a
pinpoint.
vice, you're the only person in the sweet spot. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually kind of liked the design. I was kind of skeptical
Okay.
of the side tweeters, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I would have been too, for sure.
And then I heard them and was like, okay, that makes sense now that I've heard them. So I'll do some more critical listening with that as I can this week. As always, my weeks fill up really super fast. Like today, I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to go home from work early. I got jack squat to do at work. I'm going to come home early. I'm going to listen to some speakers and do the full review today. Got tied up at work. Found out that my son had baseball tryouts. My 6-year
Ah,
old son had baseball tryouts, and holy,
tryouts for 6-year-olds?
yeah, oh, it's terrible. It's just
Okay.
terrible. You should see these fathers. They're like, oh, bring the power. Let's bring the heat. I'm like, are you serious? He's 6. He's not bringing anything. I'll be happy if he even catches the ball, which he did
Uh-huh.
not. Thank you very much. He didn't catch. He didn't hit. He didn't do anything. It's pathetic. You should watch him swing at the bat. It's like slow motion. Everything else is going normal speed, but he's in slow motion. He's
Mm.
terrible. He is so bad. But he comes off the field, and we've been out there for like an hour and a half. It was ridiculously long of them just trying to keep 6-year-olds in a line and not killing each other because most of the parents like really couldn't care. They're like,
Hmm.
go out there. My kid's not my problem anymore. Let the little miscreant, jab somebody with the bat, which is exactly what they were doing. I was standing right there. I almost backhanded about 5 different boys. I'm like, you stop it. He's like, you're not my dad. I'm like, yeah, you're lucky because you would never see the outside of a room. All right, you would wonder what the sky looked like. Get back in the box. Anyways, so yeah, but he came off that field and was like, that was so much fun. I had so much fun. I'm like,
Oh, well, that's good.
that's all that matters. You have
Hmm.
so much fun. So he has a
Especially
great
when you're
time.
6. You don't
Yeah,
need to win to have fun.
you do
Well,
not.
I also had a productive week. I went and visited Paul McDonald, our race car
Again,
driver.
Jesus,
Uh-huh.
are you trying to get in his will or what, dude?
No,
Seriously.
he's asking me to come over because he had a problem. He got a new HDMI switch because he wanted, the additional input. He wanted it to switch faster than the old one he was using that couldn't handle more than 720p.
Oh, right, right.
So, but when he got this new one, which he just ordered off of Amazon, it came in. The picture was there, but he had no sound from the
Ah, no
sources he was
problem.
plugging in. I was like, that's kind of weird. So went over there to have a look, checked all his connections. They were fine. And I did fix the problem with our wonderful method of unplugging it and plugging it back in. Because I swear that's the only thing I did was unplug it from power and plug it back in. And it worked just
Yeah.
fine.
My cough's better
So
this week too, so I shouldn't be coughing as much. But that's great. Yes, the turn it off, back on again method is a time honored
I
and
I
proven.
wish I could come up with a better solution or reason as to why it wasn't working, but honestly, that is the only variable I changed. So
HDMI, dude.
good
It
time.
sucks. What are
Mhm.
you gonna do? All right, let's get into these questions here, or
Yeah.
into whatever we're supposed to be talking about today. All right, so first of all, let's go ahead and thank our listeners for the week. We
Yes.
got some donations from Justin, Andrew, Zach, Lance, and Christian. They
Woo.
went to
Again, more people.
www.avrant.com and clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and gave us a PayPal donation. You can do that with a credit card or with your PayPal account.
That's
Uh,
awesome. Thank you guys. Justin,
yes,
Andrew, Zach, Lance, Christian. Thank you all very much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
And Robert had a problem with his SVS sub.
Mhm.
It's very old. It's been around. It's been around for a while, but the LED indicator light stopped working,
Mhm.
and he went to try to fix it himself. Which they gave him some instructions on how to do that, and was not able to do so because there was so much. I think glue. Is that what he
Yeah,
said? Something like
yeah.
that.
Like just piles of glue all around it.
So he didn't
Which,
want to go,
yeah.
whatever. And so they said, "Well, where are you?" And he said, "Where he was." And they're like, "Well, we're only about 45 minutes away from you. If you want to bring it over, we'll fix it." So
Mhm.
he brought it over there, and they fixed it, which is
Yep.
kind of cool. Did
Yeah.
they? Did
Out of warranty. They didn't mind. It's like
yeah,
it's an LED. They'll fix that for you.
they'll fix that for you. We got this. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than shipping it, especially with gas these days. So
But still, not every company will. It's like not every company's that open and willing to talk to you. So that's cool. He's very happy with them. That's nice. I will mention Joseph over on Facebook was like he is no longer happy with SVS because he can find their products on Walmart.com.
oh,
And apparently he thinks being on Walmart.com is inherently a bad thing, but I will say you'll notice that everything there says shipped by and sold by either One Call or Electronics Expo. They're just using the Walmart.com
Right.
website as like a front for
Storefront. Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So they're not really at Walmart, Joseph. They're just on the Walmart.com via other retailers. Interesting.
Yeah. So if you want to be a listener of the week, you can go to our website and donate, or you can be like Robert and find a way to, because when he was down there, he mentioned that he
Exactly.
heard of us, heard of them through us. So let us know how you have supported the podcast in your own special way. It doesn't have to be monetarily, though. It's always appreciated. And we will make you the listener of the week. Now, in the news, DTSX, the firmware that never was, actually is. It came out for the Denon AVRX 7200W and WA, and it actually came out the day it said that Denon said it would. So
That's right.
does that mean that you have it now?
No, because I have the Marantz SR7010, and I'm not getting the update until March 3rd.
Ah,
So I gotta wait a month. But it functions. Some people have found that if you select the speaker setup that I like, which is front heights and top middles, for some reason that setting and that setting only created like a loud hiss. And they're like, well, we're going to have to fix that.
that's exciting for you.
But the good news is you can change it to front heights and top rears, essentially hear the same thing, and the hiss goes away. So it's definitely a software problem. Doesn't happen when using the DTS Neural X Up Mixer, which is their version of up mixing for older content.
So it's only with the actual DTSX?
Only with actual DTSX,
How
of
many-
which
I
there are
actually have-
two
I was going to say
two
that.
Blu-rays right now.
Two.
And of course, everyone who has this AV receiver has those two Blu-rays.
And what are those two Blu-rays so we know what movies?
It's American Ultra and Ex Machina.
Ex Machina needs that.
I couldn't. I saw it in the theater and I was like, I don't. I mean, there's a couple of things where like an alarm goes
I
off.
like that movie. I saw it on. I streamed it on.
And there's a helicopter at the beginning and the end.
That is about the only thing I can think of. That
Yup.
everything else is just two people sitting in a room talking to each other.
It's
and
a
then there's
pretty
some,
talky movie, yeah.
Yeah.
But people are very happy with the Neural X Up Mixer, which is good news. And it does use front wide speakers if you're the sort of person who wants to use front wide. And people have said, hey, you know what you can actually do? Because you can physically connect 13 speakers all at once, but you can only use 11 at a time. But you can actually set it so that when you're using Dolby Surround Up Mixer, you're using your traditional 7 speakers and 4 overhead. But then you can actually switch it so that when you're using DTS Neural X, you still have 7 on the ground, but the 7 would be 5, your regular 5, left, center, right, surround left, surround right, and then front wide left and right, rather than surround backs, and then still 4 overheads. So it's still 7.2.2 or 0.4, but you can substitute front wides for surround backs, and that still works. And you don't have to like change Odyssey or anything when you do that. So
that's cool.
more or less people are happy.
Good.
Yay.
Circuit City is coming back to retail and online in June with an ambitious plan for small box stores and kiosks that focus on branding, profitability, and millennial customers. So you can see headphones. I looked at it. It's
Yep.
actually like they're basically going to be Radio Shack, which is fine.
Yeah, but without like these specialty like little
Right.
components and stuff that Radio
Yeah,
Shack
yeah.
used to. It's like, no, these are products. So,
Yes. So you're going to be headphones, cords, cables, drones. They're going to spell drones. I guess that's a millennial thing. Millennials like their drones.
I
Did not know
hated
that.
like all the language in this announcement. It all sounded so off. I'm like, I love how the first thing is how, our focus is going to be profitability, not carrying good products, not high value, not customer service, profitability.
Well,
That's their
honestly,
number
dude,
one goal.
I think that this could be if they took and they were like, okay, what we're going to be is like a physical mono price. Yeah, I mean, like we're gonna sell the stuff, all the stuff that you guys want. That's fine. The things that get you in the door, the phones, the headphones, that sort of thing. But then we're gonna have a huge line of our own products that are
Yeah.
gonna be dirt cheap, and we're gonna make money on them because it's our products,
Yeah.
and we're not.
Well, it
If they did something like
seems-
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it seems like they're online because they're like, we'll have thousands and thousands of SKUs online and then just a select group of products at the actual small stores
Right.
and the kiosks. So, clearly they're focusing on online, which obviously makes sense these days. But But they do want a
I don't know,
retail
man.
presence, so they're
I
coming
would not
back.
want to go up against Amazon, honestly.
I know.
I shop at Amazon because I can't be bothered to shop anyplace else.
Uh,
People are like, oh, did you see this deal at this other website? Nope, I
mm-hmm.
did not, and I never will because I'm never going there. And that includes climbing gear, which is kind of a pisser. The only thing I did do recently is I ordered climbing shoes online at Zappos because they have a
Mm-hmm.
365-day free shipping both ways return policy on shoes.
That's pretty
So I
good.
ordered 3 pairs of the exact same shoe, just different sizes. I'm gonna try them all on,
Mm-hmm.
keep the one I want, send the other two back. Amazon doesn't do that. So, anyways, Control 4 lastly has introduced an EA series, which is Entertainment and Automation, which is what
Mm-hmm.
EA stands for, not Electronic Arts, which is one of the worst offenders of video game peoples these days. Them and Konami and just they're all terrible these days. Anyways, these here have entry level prices of $600 to $2,000. I guess that's entry level for Control
It
4.
is. It's entry level for that. Yep.
For the 1, 3, or 5 zone controllers that focus on home theater, lighting, music, they're only sold through dealers still,
Mm-hmm.
but they represent a lower barrier to entry for people who might not be comfortable with the DIY solutions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so these are just the controllers. I mean, all the things you're going to be connecting to it is still in addition to that price,
And the
and they're
programming.
still, yeah, and they're still being sold through installers. So the installation price is set by the installer, not by Control 4. So this is really just the hardware we're talking about, but it is a lower barrier entry as far as getting the controller. And so they're like, well, this is your gateway, and hopefully you'll expand to like control your whole house with Control 4. That's obviously what they'd like you to do, but they realize it's worthwhile to not start at $10,000 and maybe a
Yeah,
little
that's a
more
small
affordable.
market. You know,
It is.
I just, and there's so many people in it. You know, Savant, Control 4, Crestron,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're just so there's a, and I don't know. I don't know. Anyways. All right, some comments from our listeners. Ash from the YouTube video, which has since been taken down, in which
Mm-hmm.
Audio Quest HDMI cables were being used. Each increase in the price brought an easily noticeable changes to the sound because their HDMI ones and zeros get better the more expensive the cable is. Mark Waldrop from AIX or X. I don't know how you say that.
AIX, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that doesn't spell it. Records also saw the video. He downloaded it, analyzed the audio track, and declared the demonstration a fraud on his Real HD Audio blog. That resulted in an uproar, including messages from AudioQuest's CEO. But Marcus standing by his claims of fraud and is now trying to nail down exactly who did what since the video was posted by a retailer, but including an AudioQuest employee and was handled by an outside post-production company. And yeah, don't care.
Yeah, just yet more evidence that AudioQuest is worse than Monster at this point. It's like I have no desire to.
They're all I hate to break it to you. Monster is like entry level evil when it comes to cables. They really are. I mean, I know you really hate them, and I hate them too for their whole suing people just for trying to
Yes.
use the word
No, that's
monster.
yeah, exactly.
That's terrible, right?
Yeah.
But their cables compared to these guys,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
they're
that's true.
reasonably priced.
I wonder if AudioQuest is suing anyone who has the word audio or quest in their name because I wouldn't put
I
it
don't
beyond
think
them at this
I
point.
don't know how they could get away with that at all.
Oh,
Sammy over at Facebook posted that he tried bi-amping his more short MS906 speakers. So those are towers.
they are towers.
They're
Yeah.
kind of triangular, kind of a little bit. Is that right? Are those
No,
what
no,
I'm
these
thinking
are
of?
older ones. These are rectangular. They say they're a three-way, and yet in the manual it said it's a 2.5-way. So I don't know which is true, but
Maybe they rounded up.
yeah.
More than short MS906 speakers using his Integra 30.1 AV receiver. Now they sound, quote, much better, end quote. And he wasn't expecting them to, but they do. Yay.
Which makes me yeah. First of all, yay! Anything that's making you happier, I'm fine with that. But it does make me question what else changed because just by amping them all by itself
Yeah, it should have made a difference.
wouldn't have made a difference.
Especially if you're
Might
crossing
have
over
turned
80 hertz like you should be.
it might have turned Odyssey off.
Could have done that.
Because when you change that, it will turn it off. And the 30.1 from Integra is only Odyssey 2 EQ,
Oh, which isn't doing much
which I
anyways.
wouldn't mind turning off anyway. So that could be it. Just that.
Jordan has heard us discussing headphones and wanted to share his own experiences with some of the models we've suggested, as well as several we've never mentioned.
Now I just copied and pasted this. We don't have to say all of this, but there's like the couple that stood out. So
Yeah, so no, we'll go through them real quick. The Barry Dynamic DT770, the 80 ohm headphones. I guess these are in-ears. Is that what they are?
No, those are over the ear. They're full size cans.
Are they really? They
Oh
sound
yeah,
fantastic, but he could never get used to the fit. They feel great, but they're designed to close in on the front of your ear and stay open in the back, which will leave us a gap. And that sounds like you got
that's
them on
weird.
backwards. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. Anyways, $222, and he likes the sound but doesn't like the fit. Skull Candy Aviator Mic 3 and Mic C3. They look awesome and very light and fit perfectly around the ears. They sound reasonably good as well, but they are overpriced. At least the cool looking brown ones are for 199
Yeah, I
bucks.
haven't been a huge fan of Skull Candy myself. That seems more style than substance, is my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that should tell you the name tells you that. Audio Technica ATH M50s, which are the ones I
Well,
like.
it's the M50X now. They have updated it, so
Oh, they have. Okay, so I've
yeah,
never heard these. I've heard the
yeah.
S's, which is the straight cable version of the M50s from before. These are reviewed very well, but he has to say he's not impressed.
Huh.
He mostly uses them for nighttime TV listening because of the long cord. I guess they sound up to par with similarly priced headphones, but they're probably his least favorite on the list for 120 bucks. I wonder if they've changed the sound. I don't see why they would have.
Well, I
But
mean, people have said, yeah, directly comparing the 50s to the 50Xs, there is a slight change in sound, but nothing earth shattering. So,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
surprised at this, but that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
to each their own. He's tried various Beats and Bose headphones. These are what he calls gateway headphones. They're
Mhm.
very overpriced for the sound quality, but a lot of those brands, without those brands, he wouldn't have gotten into headphones in the first place. So
Yeah.
I can understand that. It's true. The Sennheiser M2s.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with those.
I don't know what these are either. Slick, comfortable, and sound amazing. These are his newest ones, and they're worth every penny of the $287 he paid for them.
Hmm.
And there's no need, but there is no need to drive them with the amplifier. They're a little heavy on the bass, but he doesn't mind that. The Sennheiser HD600s, those
Yeah.
are big over ear cans, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Open back,
Yeah.
full, big size over ear. Very, very good headphones.
Yeah, after he sold those Barry Dynamics, he picked these up, and these are his current favorite. They're
Yeah.
extremely accurate. Very flat, he says. They always tend to be his go-to headphones. Every time I get a new pair, I always end up going back to these, and it's $309. The Shure SE215s.
All right.
These
I like
ones that
those.
you like these, right? I've never heard
Those
these.
are the ones I always recommend.
These in-ear sound fantastic if you can get a good seal. He tried different tips, but nothing worked. A few times he could get a good seal, though they were up there as far as sound quality. These are negative profile as well. What does that mean? They're very flat.
I think he just means that they fit within the cup of your ear. Right?
Okay.
Nothing is sticking out of your ear.
Okay, and he could never get used to that. So
Yeah. Well, I can
he,
see
he
that.
calls them
Also,
very uncomfortable for 150 bucks.
I definitely don't agree with the very uncomfortable. They weren't for me. However, if they don't fit properly within the cup of your ear, because your ear does need to be large enough, the bowl of your ear has to be large enough to hold the entire headphone. If it isn't, then I could see how they would be uncomfortable. So perhaps he has slightly smaller pinna of his ear or something like that than I do.
All right. For the cheaper here, we got the JVC HAFX8B. Never heard of them. They're 15 bucks. They're in ears and they sound very good for the price. The bass is heavy and tight, but the highs sound very harsh, which is pretty typical of your cheap headphones.
Yeah.
But he calls them extremely comfortable compared to the Sennheiser, the Shores. So there you
Sure.
go. Apple EarPods. They're fine if you're listening to bass-heavy, compressed tracks or podcasts. Otherwise, they sound a little too muddy for him. They also slip out your ears a lot for 30
Yeah,
bucks.
they do.
And the Klipsch X10s. He calls these the creme de la creme of in-ears. Tiny earpieces give them a good seal and the sound quality out of this world. They don't last, however, almost a second pair in 3 years. Originally 300 bucks and worth every penny. Now a meager 119.
I mean,
So
I do like the Klipsch in-ears. I think they're very good. Yeah, that whole thing of mentioning tiny earpieces and that fitting better, I'm like, maybe he has smaller ears than I do, which is
Could be.
entirely possible since I have a pretty big head.
You do. That is true. You have a large melon. All right. Will on Facebook says he's a relatively new listener, and he'll be sending in some questions soon. But for now, he just wanted to thank me for recommending the Nexus 6 because I found a one-day deal on the Nexus 6 on Amazon, and I bought one, and my coworker bought one, and apparently he bought one too. Yeah, it's a monster phone, but I love it. So zippy, so much power. It's like ridiculous. It's like holding a tablet. I mean,
and then like 2 years from now, you'll be like, how did I ever use this thing?
I know. It's so slow. Oh, God, I hate it. But right now, I love it. So,
All right.
Questions from last week or from last
Hmm.
week's that we haven't gotten to. Jim has saved up 1,500 bucks, which he was intending to spend upgrading his dual Bic acoustic H100 to dual SVS PB2000s when he came
Ooh.
across someone local selling a used PB13 Ultra for $1,200. Okay, so that'd be his whole budget
Right.
practically. His
It would.
theater
Yeah.
is 25 by 15, which is approximately 3,600 cubic feet. So should he A, continue as planned, buy the dual PB2000s to replace his Bics, B, or two, buy the used PB13 and use it alone, or three, buy the used PB13, continue to use one Bic and have dual subs, then save up for 5 more years and hope to run across another PB13 for a similarly low price. We answered this question already. In fact, you answered it as I was typing an answer to it
Ah.
as well. So we were on the same page.
Yes.
Basically, his room is not big enough to really justify having a PB13. I mean, if he had one, it would be great,
Oh yes. Yeah.
but he doesn't need one.
No.
Uh, and he would be better off having two PB2000s, which will easily pressurize that room, that
Oh
space,
yes. Oh yes.
and give him even base across all of his, or more even base throughout his room, rather than one overpowered sub and then trying to match that with two. I mean, even if you stack those Bics on top of each other,
Yeah.
it would be
They still can't extend nearly
not
as
even
deep
close.
as either the 2000 or the PB13
Right.
Ultra. So yeah, trying to match up very lopsided subs like a PB13 Ultra with Bic H100s not going to work out well. And yeah, you don't need the output of the PB13 Ultra until you have maybe like 5,000 cubic feet. So yeah, no, those PB2000s, a pair of those. The original plan was a good one. Stick with that.
Stick with that. Yes, and that's what you told him, and
Yeah.
I 100% agreed with that. That was what I was typing as well
But
because
I mean, I see, like you see, hey, there's a PB13 Ultra, I can afford to get it. Tempting, but
tempting. I know.
coming up, he has 5 seats
Yeah.
all in a row. That's a wide seating area. You want 2 subs, unquestionably.
As Rob said, he does have 5 seats in a row that are about 12 feet away from a 92-inch screen. He put
Yeah.
one of his big subs on the left wall, about 6 feet from the front, and the second big sub on the right wall, about 6 feet from the back. Okay.
Good.
His two front corners are available, as is the space directly behind his seats. The rear corners are not available, though, and the midpoints of all 4 walls are no goes. So, is there any better position for his subs, or is he already doing it right? You are already doing it right.
I agree.
Yes.
Yes.
So you
Yeah,
have mirrored it.
Mhm.
You have mirrored. If you put a mirror down the center of your room, sort of, you have a mirror. Sort of. You know what I mean?
Flip it. Yeah.
Flip it.
Flip
Do
it
the thing.
across, flip it down. Yeah.
right.
Diagonally opposite. That is what you have done, and that is correct. You want them across the room from one another. And
If you have that space right behind your seats and you
Mm-hmm.
can't put another one directly in front of the room, in the front of the room doing the
Yeah.
same thing,
Yeah.
then that, I mean, I don't see any reason for you not to do what you're doing anyways. If you're already happy with that placement and the wife is happy, everybody's happy, I'd stick with that.
Yeah.
Just take the ones you've
No, I mean
got,
he's
move them out, and put the two new ones in there.
yeah, he's
Preferably
just
with
double
you.
checking if perhaps there's something better. But
Nope.
given that the options are either both of them at the front of the room or lopsided,
I
then
don't
nope,
even think
where
that.
you got him is good.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, I don't think that you would be doing any better even if you could do the front and the midpoints of the front and back walls. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be technically probably a little bit better acoustically, but this is just fine. This is perfectly good.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, the stumper. And I have no idea what this question is talking about because this was
Okay,
the week
yeah,
I
it
was
was
not
when
here.
Austin. Yeah, it was Austin and I.
Okay, so Bill apparently has got a
discussed this.
hum. Is that what I'm supposed to
Yes.
take from this? All right.
Yeah. What he has. This is his second zone setup. But it is basically he's got a Sonos and something else plugged into an AV receiver, or into a like a Sonos Connect box, which can itself power something, but then also feed out just a line level output. So he's basically got a main room which is being powered off of an AV receiver, and then he's using Zone 2. He's powering like a dozen other speakers that are all connected in like series parallel, which was wired for him by an electrician. So yeah, what he's found is that he plugged in some lamps, and when he first said it, the language made me think that he had plugged the lamps into the same surge protector as all of his AV equipment.
Right.
But what he meant was it's the same type of surge protector, but it's a separate outlet. So not everything is plugged into one strip. He just meant he has the same type of surge protector for both that and the lamps. And when he did that, this hum went loud. But
But
then he
he said,
unplugged the
yeah.
lamps and it did not go away. The hum remained.
Okay. All right. So he says the lamps aren't plugged into the same surge protector as the receiver and the Sonos, as Rob just explained, just the
Yeah.
same kind. They're all plugged into various outlets in the same room, so they're presumably on the same circuit breaker. It's not always the case, dude. Let's just start with that.
That's true.
Just it's not always the case. It just depends on how your house was built and what was your electrician was doing. But his so is this Stealth DC1 headphone amp, and it has no hum. So the only hum he's getting is from these speakers. He's saying that the hum was actually there before the lamps were added. It just
Yeah.
seemed to worsen after they were added, although removing them had no effect.
Which means it might just be coincidence.
Yeah, very well could be coincidence, or it
Yeah.
could be you weren't really noticing it, and then and then it got louder, and then you noticed it, and then you
Mm-hmm.
unplugged them, and it's now you just can't stop noticing it. So there could be that. He tried disconnecting the RCA cables, no change to the hum. After not using the receiver for the past week, the hum seems to have lessened, but is still there. Is this any indication what the problem might be?
uh,
If he does need a new amp for the ceiling speakers, is a 50-watt per channel amp enough to run the in-ceiling speakers in series or parallel or whatever goofy hookup the installer did? Well, we don't, do we know what the okay,
I
anyways.
don't know exactly what the wiring was. I mean, he had a one picture of the termination at the very end of the whole thing when it's connected to the AV receiver, but I have no idea how it's all wired together. But he has about a dozen speakers. If the
So,
person knew anything about what they're doing, it should be a combination of series and parallel. But we don't know for sure.
we don't know. So, um, yeah, you've got a hum. Hums are fun in that you never figure them out, really. You hope they go away by themselves. Uh, I am the one thing that I wonder, this Sonos thing, does it have a volume control on it as well?
It does. It can power speakers itself if you can. It has binding posts that you can
Yeah.
connect to if you want to.
A lot of times hums like these, especially when they start to change over time,
Yeah.
and sometimes are a volume mismatch between different things that are all in the same
But it's just
line.
he's taken it from the Sonos and
It
plugged it into
should
the
not.
Stealth, the Emotiva Stealth, and there's no hum at all. So the only hum he's getting is when he's connecting it to this AV receiver, which is older. And since he like had it off for a while and turned it back on, and there's still a hum, but the hum is quieter, I'm like, I think maybe the power supply in that thing is just giving up the ghost. I mean, that
I don't know. That's a big
seems
thing. I mean, that's a potentially pretty large expenditure.
I know. I mean,
Of
that's why
money.
he's thinking what he can do. Since he can drive the main zone just off the Sonos itself, it already has little amps built in. So just for the one room, he can already do it directly from there and then just use its line level outputs, plug those into a separate amp that has a volume dial on it. And that can then run all of his in ceiling speakers throughout the house. So I was like, get the Dayton,
Right.
$100 one, which is 60 watts per channel from Parts Express. It's $100. Um, it's as powerful as what he was running all those speakers off of before. It's rated to power 75 watts into 4 ohms. So it actually has a 4 ohm rating, a
Right.
legit 4 ohm rating. So as long as you're not got everything wired in parallel, it should
One
be
would hope.
fine. Because I mean, you literally need like 2 watts per speaker.
Yeah.
Like that's all you need because you're not blasting music. You're just playing it
It
at a
could be a
background
broken
level.
wire in the wall. You could
I
have like some sort of
know.
short someplace. I mean, all you could have somebody could have hung something somewhere.
I
Have you
know.
put any nails or screws in your walls at any point recently? Because any of this could do it. Uh,
I mean, one thing to do for sure is unplug the AV receiver from where it is now, take it to another room, plug it into another room, and see if that AV receiver is still humming. Because if it is, then you know it's just the AV receiver. Something's gone awry in there. If you've always left it plugged into the same outlet it's always been, then we don't know for certain it's the AV receiver itself.
yeah.
Nothing else he's got plugged into this room is humming, so it makes me think it's probably the AV receiver. But just confirm. Just take that AV receiver, one pair of speakers, take it to a totally separate room, plug it in there, and see if it still hums. Because if it does, then it's the AV receiver.
So that AV receiver is using a zone 2 to power?
Yeah, because it's one of the ones you can assign like the
Yeah,
surround
yeah.
back outputs to be zone two. So he's only powering two speakers in the main room, and then he's using the zone two, by identifying the surround backs as zone two and
Switch the
powering all these speakers.
switch the you can always switch the cables from the speakers that are going into your mains into the
Mm-hmm.
zone 2 and see if it's still humming.
Yeah.
That'll tell you if it's still humming. If it's still humming with those in-room speakers,
Mm-hmm.
that would tell me that it's not something that happened in your wall at some
Right.
point.
Right.
But it could, like you said, it could be that those speakers are wired funny, and it's
Yeah.
just it's causing the the AV receiver to struggle to power them.
Yeah.
In which case, you wouldn't, you'd switch those around, and maybe the zone 2 is doing fine with the room, the ones that are in the room. I don't know, dude. It's a problem, and I don't have a solution for that. But yes, try some of those things, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's got CDs he'd like to listen to with his Oppo PM2s and Emotiva Stealth DC1. It's a good setup, man. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. I got that.
That would be very nice.
He currently has an Onkyo 5 disc CD changer, but it's quite large, 17 inches by 17 inches. They are big. And it's not
All of them are. All the 5 disc changers are that size.
Yep, they're pretty big.
Yeah.
It's not going to fit on the new table for a sitting area in the bedroom. It would match the decor better if you got a smaller CD player. Budget is up to $250 or so, but less would be fine too, as long as it works. Multi-disc is not necessary, and then used is an option. He's seen TIAC thrown around as a brand. Are they any good, reliable, etc.? What do we recommend? It is a
I
CD player.
Yes. I recommend getting a DVD player because I mean honestly, you look anywhere for a CD player, a player that only plays CDs, and they're all like $100 and up.
Yeah.
And yet you can get a DVD player which plays CDs for like $25. You can certainly get ones that are small. I mean, I know LG and Sony both sell ones that are completely reliable and small. And then you've got an Emotiva Stealth DC1 which has an optical input and a digital coax input. So you're connecting it digitally, so there's no worrying about super crappy
Noise.
DACs or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like it's a digital out, it's a CD, just get yourself a DVD player. You
I
could
would
get a
literally
Blu-ray
buy
player.
anything. I would completely buy it on aesthetics and price. I would. In this situation,
Sure.
this is a mature technology. The Emotiva is going to take care of all your decoding and stuff like that. All you have to
Mm-hmm.
do is set this thing to go out digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Anything will do it. Literally anything. I would completely buy. I would look at the back. I would look at the front and go, "Ooh, pretty." And look at the back, go, "Ooh, look, it's got a digital output. I'll take it." That would be my decision-making
Yeah.
process.
But yes,
Any-
my point is don't specifically look for a CD player. Any disc player,
Yeah.
totally fine.
And I mean, I guess he's not worried about SACD or any of that stuff.
Doesn't
He
seem
wouldn't
so.
mention that. So if you're not worried about that, then any DVD player will play CDs.
Mhm.
Anyone. All right, Mark has some follow-up from his previous questions. There's a link here for me to click, and I am going to click
There's
it.
some pics.
There are some pics.
It's a new computer. You shouldn't be so hesitant anymore. It shouldn't crash
I'm
a
not
computer
hesitant.
anymore.
I forwarded myself this email. It's just fine. It opens just fine. Look, it's already open. Look at that. And
Yay!
there's pics of a room with things
There are.
in a basket. All right.
Yes.
He's pretty much decided to go with the Vizios E65 at $950 as Rob recommended. So that leaves about $500 for speakers if possible. We mentioned that B&W speakers have a characteristic non-neutral sound. He found this interesting as he bought them back in the days when he was reading Absolute Sound and thought 2-channel with no processing was the way to go. He even had an outboard DAC at one point. Ooh, bought all the Kool-Aid and drank it.
Line and sinker.
Drink that Kool-Aid. Anyways, even back then, he knows that he was only really liked the sound of the BMWs on certain kinds of music. Huh?
Yeah.
But since he got his Denon receiver with Odyssey X32, everything sounds equally great.
Yeah.
So maybe what he really likes is a more neutral sound that the BMWs alone could not give him. And he has included some Odyssey EQ curves for our consideration and explanation.
Which, yeah, that not surprising at all. Odyssey has lowered the output in the like 200 hertz range.
Yeah.
Which is the warmth range that everyone talks about loving the warmth of B&W speakers so much, and it has boosted the treble because there is a high frequency roll off.
Right.
All makes perfect sense. It's exactly what I would expect to see.
Cut the bass, boost the treble. Is what it did.
Yeah, I
That's
know
exactly
there is a correction in like the 80 hertz range as well, but I strongly believe that is a room thing because
yeah.
that is uniform and it's a 80 hertz thing. I don't think that's the speakers. I think that's the room. But the other corrections are exactly what I would expect to see on an EQ curve to try and make B&W speakers flat.
Anyways, he says he can probably sell the B&Ws for about $1,000, maybe
Mm-hmm.
$1,200, which can be added to his $500 remaining budget.
Right.
He would need mains in the center, and he really likes the idea of concentric driver arrangements that KEF and ELAC offer. So what do we think? I think you should go listen to some KEFs and some ELACs. That's what I think you should do.
Yeah, I mean,
think
for
you
the
should.
ELACs, the Unify that were shown at CES, those were just prototypes at CES. So they're still, I would not expect to see them until probably Christmas time of this
Right.
year. So if you're waiting on those, you might be waiting a while. But the KEFs, however, definitely I mean, KEF is widely distributed and sold.
Oh,
So
the
it should
dealer in
not
town
be.
that I popped in on had KEFs in there.
Yeah,
So,
it should be quite possible to hear some KEFs. Keep in mind, KEF is sold through accessories for less. They're not always in stock right away, but you can definitely get a discount on, like, he'd be looking at the Q series for this
Yeah.
price range. So yeah, that's a definite possibility is the Q series and getting them from accessories for less to get yourself a discount.
yeah. But go hear them and hear
Yes,
everything
yes.
else while you're there. While you're there, listen to all of the stuffs.
Yep.
Okay. Just don't say I just want to hear concentric drivers. I like the idea of concentric drivers too. They're fine. I try to keep myself very agnostic when it comes to these different technologies that come up because people get all hot and heavy on one like, oh well, folded rib retrievers are the best. I'm like, nah, maybe. Just hear it all.
Sometimes they fit the bill.
So yeah, I would go in there with a selection of music on CD if you can do it, and burn yourself a nice CD with some of your favorite tracks or just
I mean,
selections.
usually you're fine on a thumb drive these days, but
Yeah, but if you go into a higher end place, they're gonna look at you like you. I brought in SACDs one time, and they had absolutely no idea what to do with it. Like they were like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's an SACD." Like, how do you play one of those? I'm like, what do you mean? How do you shut up? Anyways, all right. Blah, blah, blah. His new TV, the one that he's gonna get, will require a new stand anyway. So would it do any great harm to the sound to have the center speaker up on the base of a TV stand as a solution to mounting both the TV and center problem he was worrying about the other week?
right. So the situation, as I understand it, like right now he has a normal TV stand, but it's not that wide. It looks like it was meant for maybe like a 40, 50-inch size.
Right.
And these Visios are the type where the stand that they come with is the feet on the outside edges, right?
Right.
It's not like a middle pedestal stand. So
Right.
the feet are actually far enough apart on the Visio that they overshoot the width of his current TV stand.
That's a problem.
So he was thinking, because what they have are these, it's basically like, it looks like a wall mount, but it's on a short stand, and that stand goes on top of a table or something like that, but
Right.
then uses a wall mount bracket to hold the TV. So he's like, all right, he's like guesstimating that he could put the TV on the mount, have this stand, and still have enough room below the TV to put the center speaker there rather than having it on the lower shelf of the TV stand, which is where he has his center
I'm
right
guessing
now.
that you're not going to have enough room for that, but
Exactly, especially with a 65-inch.
yeah, those things are not usually built for much bigger than 60 or 70 inches. So that means you're going to probably have 3 inches underneath that the bottom bezel, I would guess.
Yeah, because
I would guess.
it says, I was looking through the specs, and it said basically you can have about 18 and a half inches from the base of this stand that would go on top of like a regular table. But from the base of the stand to the middle of the TV, height wise, you can have about 18 and a half inches. And the Visio is about 16 and a half inches from the middle
that,
of the
2
TV down
inches.
to its bottom. So you got about 2 inches below that, which is not enough for your center speaker to go there. So I am in agreement that having your center speaker higher than where he has it right now. So if you imagine a 2-shelf unit, so it's not on the base, it's 1 shelf up. It's not on the top, so it's kind of inside the middle shelf. I agree that having your center speaker higher than that would be nice if you could do it. But you'd either have to have a considerably taller mount, which then gets your TV up pretty high,
Yeah.
or what I would consider, of course, the price will be more expensive to do this, but they do have, they call them like 3-in-1 TV stands,
Hmm.
where it's like a stand with the mount integrated, and then they usually have a shelf that is meant to hold the center speaker right below the TV. You'd be spending more to get a stand like that, and you'd be replacing the stand you already have, which of course is a bit of a hassle, but that's closer to being the solution you're looking for.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for. Or you can take this stand that you're looking at and then build a shelf or a plinth
Yeah,
for it
yeah,
to raise it up a little bit and then put your center channel on top of your stand as it
yeah.
is. You can do that, but it might look a little funny
Mm-hmm.
and it's certainly going to make you a little nervous. I would bolt that stand right down to that plinth though, man. I
Yup.
would drill some holes in that bad boy and get some lag bolts and I would make sure that thing wasn't going to move
Yup.
if I did that.
But as far
So,
as resting a center speaker on top of a base of some sort, totally
no
fine.
problem.
I would put like a mouse pad under it, just
Yeah,
so there's
just something.
a little something to help put a half folded towel under there. Just
Something.
something to a little bit damp if there are any vibrations. But other than that, totally
Yeah.
fine.
Jackson is a custom installer and has been very DIY in his own theater. He's built his own speakers, which he's very happy
Mm,
with, and also built his own subwoofer from a rhythmic kick kit. He
okay.
finished it in a beautiful real cherry veneer and has been very happy with it until it broke 3 times.
Ah,
The problem, it seems, is from damage from over excursion. He's busting the
right.
driver up.
Yeah. Now he plays, he says, at nearly full reference volume, and once in a while something will come along and kaboom!
Blow up his
And
sub.
there went his sub.
He's trying to decide whether to just repair the driver, as he has twice before, replace the driver, cost $150 for that, or just give up and buy a pair of subs from SVS, which will not die from over excursion no matter what. His living room is open to the hallway, the kitchen, dining room, and an upstairs room with a total volume of 3,800 cubic feet. That doesn't sound right.
I know. I seriously like. He said his house is small and the
How
rooms are
small could it
the rooms
possibly
are
be?
but 3,800
It's
cubic
like
feet
that
for
John
all of
Malkovich room.
that.
John Malkovich room. There's no way that your kitchen, dining room, upstairs, 3,800 square feet, that you
Cubic
have
feet.
done your
Yeah.
math wrong, sir.
Yeah. I can't see that. I mean, I'm thinking that's got to cover at least 650 square feet. What he's described. If that's small, I could, conceivably that could be the size of a one-bedroom apartment, right? So like a 650 square feet, but
That is
then
a small one-bedroom apartment.
it is.
Six.
But
I mean,
I
most
mean,
one bedrooms are like 900.
conceivably it could be that.
Yeah,
But even then, you multiply that by 8, you're well over 3,800 cubic feet. So I think it's got to be bigger.
yeah. So with a pair of PB 2000, well, if your room really is 3,800 square feet, cubic feet, sorry, a pair of PB 2000s would probably be okay.
Yeah,
But I
3,800 they'd be okay.
don't think that you do have that, and I think that's the
Yeah.
reason why your rhythmic's been self
Yeah.
imploding. The other thing too is, depending on how you set this thing up, you could very well be sitting in some sort of weird null,
Exactly.
and it could very well be that you are increasing the volume so that you're getting that reference volume where you're sitting,
Yeah.
but you're in a null, and it is
Or at least a
so,
dip.
a dip, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's somehow skewing the results. You're actually turning up a lot louder than it needs to be, and if you
Yeah.
actually physically move the sub, you might get more volume and less explosion or implosions of your subwoofers. That being said, uh, honestly, if you've already broke this thing twice, I wouldn't fix it again. I wouldn't do that. I would definitely check your double and triple check your math on your
Yeah.
room
Yeah.
and all that space, because I don't think that you've got the cubic feet right. And that's, you know what, dude, it's, believe me, I can never, I used to have to triple check my math on those sorts of things too. So
Hmm.
don't think that I'm coming down on you because of it. I just think
Oh
you're
heavens,
wrong.
no, no. Yeah, no. I think because I mean, what we want to do is make sure you are getting subs that will satisfy you. Because if you want to hit reference volumes, I mean, it takes what it takes. I mean, the SVS is it is very nice what SVS has done by very well protecting their subs. So you could turn those PB 2000s as loud as they possibly go. They will not kill themselves. However, it might not get loud enough for your liking.
Right.
In which case, that's still kind of like wasted money, right? I mean, you're not getting the performance that you wanted. So yeah, I mean, we have to make sure that we are getting the correct volume so that we are saying subs that will be able to pressurize that space. These are 15-inch drivers, but they're sealed, right? So
Right.
that means all the output you're hearing, all the way down to 20 hertz and potentially even lower, is only coming from that driver. It's getting no help whatsoever from a
I would,
port.
if you're trying to get as much volume you are, you should be looking at a ported sub for
Yeah,
sure, for sure.
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, if it's closer to 6,000 cubic feet, like I think it probably is, perhaps even more, I would venture to say that PB or PC 2000s will not get you loud enough to hit full reference
Yeah.
volumes in that amount of air, if it's what I suspect. In which case, I mean, like the ultra models would, but that's way more expensive.
Yeah. You're
So
still
that
looking
would,
at power sound audio and
yeah, power sound or HSU.
HSU. Yeah.
Yeah.
Offerings. All right. So check your math. Get back to us.
Yes.
Also, if this thing is as beautiful as you say, spend the 150, get a new driver, sell that bad boy, and make your
Sure.
money back.
Yeah. Or
'Cause the
you can
key,
just repair it. I mean, he could repair it and sell it.
yeah, but I think I don't know, repair. You could just sell that. You could actually just sell the case itself. Just sell the
Yeah,
box.
the cabinet. Yeah.
Sell the cabinet and not have to fix it at all and see what you could get for it. Because if the finish is as nice as you say, which I'm sure it is, you could get a couple $100 for that alone.
Hmm.
That's a lot of work. All right, Tyler says he's been listening for about a month and he's been loving the info and trying to bring his own AV chops up to snuff. He has a 13.5 by 22 by 8 foot, sorry, 8 inches what the other guy had.
Woo.
Living room. That's why it was only 3,800 cubic feet. 8 inches tall. It's a very short room. Sorry, I got a lot of living room with openings to other parts of the house. He's got his
Hmm.
setup arranged with his TV on the 22-foot wall above a fireplace, and his couch is on the opposite wall, pushed right up against the back wall. And he says he knows that that's not a great option, but he has no others, so
Yeah.
that's where it's going to go. That's fine. His 5 speakers are all Golden Ear HTR 7000 angled in-ceiling speakers with a single force-filled 3 subwoofer in the front right corner. It's powered by Integra DTR 30.4, which only offers Odyssey 2 EQ.
Hmm.
Because 2E sucks. The room has hardwood floors and no acoustic treatments. He wants an upgrade. He likes the sound, but he's not in love with it. He'd like to be.
Hmm.
Aesthetics, however, are a very big concern.
Mm.
Let's see here. I'm going to click on this
Yep.
link too.
It is a very reflective looking room.
So when we're looking at this room, it is very white. It is very hard. There are windows to the right of the main speakers. Well, no, to the right
There's
of the TV, the fireplace below it. There's hardwood everywhere. It's open to the kitchen. Well, I like your
hmm.
stove, dude. His AV gear is in a little hutch, it looks like.
Yep.
The room itself
And there is a little subwoofer hiding
yeah,
in the corner there.
it is very sad little subwoofer holding in the corner. It's probably not doing much. That thing looks like a dog crate. Okay, first of all, so there's one of your problems right there. No, he doesn't have a picture of the back of the room, does he?
I mean, he has a
So
picture of the seats, but
what did I miss it?
there's basically pictures hanging behind the couch, and the couch is pushed right back up against the back wall.
Oh, there it is right there. I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I you have a problem here. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is I think in order to increase the fidelity of your sound, you need to go rug shopping with your wife and
Yes.
tell her that, wouldn't it be nice if we had a rug in here? Think of how nice that would feel on our feet. We get a nice thick plush one. We could take our shoes off and like John McClane, we could rub our toes in it and stuff. Wouldn't that be sexy? Something like that. I don't know, whatever language you got to use. Anyways, do that first. That's the first thing you have to
Yep.
do is add a rug to that place. That said, your next thing is to find some pictures that your wife really likes
Mm-hmm.
and have them printed onto an acoustic panel and then
Mm-hmm.
start hanging them in that place.
Yeah.
Right behind your head would be fan freaking
Yes.
tastic.
Yeah, you already have pictures back there. You could copy those pictures as the images that get printed onto some panels. You don't even have to change the look other than it will be panels, acoustic panels hanging back there instead of picture frames.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Do
that's
that.
a prime spot to put them because you
You
already
already
got
got
them
them
there.
there. So
Yeah.
just do that, and then start hanging them every place else you can think of too. That your wife will let you. Uh, then from there, I would consider. I know she doesn't like to look at that subwoofer. You'll say, "Well, honey, what if we hid the subwoofer sort of like behind that little chair there? There's that gray chair up front that's facing the wrong direction, anyways. What if we put it back there, and we can get a second one, and we can put it like under, next to the couch, like to the side or something like that."
Now, I mean, there
Um,
was that great photo that Ara from the HT
right.
guys, one of the listeners, like they built a whole like sort of cabinet that went around a subwoofer, basically turned it into a really nice looking end table. But instead of just four legs sticking down and open space underneath it, there's a subwoofer under there with some grill cloth. But it
Hmm.
looked like it looked like a chest. It's like an antique chest kind of look to the thing. I mean, there's always kind of ways to camouflage an in-room
Like you've got
subwoofer if you need to.
that little roller stand thing right there, anyways,
Mm-hmm.
right? Imagine instead of having that, you had something else that was open like that, but then you put the subwoofer inside of it, and you put some grill fabric around it to
Mm-hmm.
keep so that it wouldn't be visible. And you got a bigger sub too because that sub's pathetic.
However, I mean, I get the aesthetic appeal. I think the speakers you already have in those Golden Ear in ceilings, they are among the better in ceiling speakers that I've heard as far as not sounding like they're always 100% above you, actually sort of tricking you into thinking they're in front of you instead. I really agree with Tom that your room is holding you back more than your speakers at this
Uh-huh.
point. Because, saying go get floor standing speakers or something like that, no, it's not an option, and that's fine. And you have good equipment. But I can tell, I probably would not be in love with the sound in that room either because the room itself is right now your biggest obstacle. So
Yeah.
anything you can do to knock down the echoes and reflections that you surely have in that room, that's where to spend your money
Big
right now.
rug. Take every picture, and say, "Honey, we're gonna get these. I want to make them bigger and nicer, and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
print them. And it's gonna be like on a fabric. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna love it."
Yeah.
Uh, all right. His wife doesn't like seeing even the tiny force field 3 sub, but she'd be fine with an in wall sub. She says that, and then you tell her how much they cost. Should he go for one higher output in wall sub? He's been considering the triads. You can. There's no reason why you can't. They are expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't hit as low or as hard as your in room.
And they're often thicker than you think.
Yes,
They will not typically fit in a standard 2x4 wall unless they are so small as to not play anything below 45 hertz. So
which is
sometimes the ceiling is actually an option for that if you're okay with having grates up there.
no
Because
one ever
usually
looks
the
up there anyways.
yeah,
So
I mean,
yeah,
usually your ceiling joists, the bays between your ceiling joists will be deep enough because they're a minimum of 2x10s. They should be. Some places I've seen built with 2x8s, which is scary. But they should be a minimum of 2x10s up there. So the ceiling is actually an option for a so-called in-wall sub. But that's an expensive installation.
it is. I think it'd be cheaper to have somebody make you a little case to go around the
Yeah.
other sub. It'd be just cheaper. And the new SVS cylinder subs, they have like a platform on top of it, a little wood platform
Mm-hmm.
on top of it, anyways. You know, you could just say, "Honey, we'll just put a plant on top of it. You'll call it a stand." You can do that. Anyways, he says he can upgrade to Atmos, but there's really nowhere to put a pair of speakers behind the seats since they're pushed right up against the back wall. So 5.1.2 maybe. First of all, you need 5.2 to start with. So if you're going to put an in-ceiling sub, do 2. I think that your last thing you need in this room is more non-subwoofer speakers.
Yeah,
Uh,
and more in the ceiling. I
nah,
mean,
nah.
no, this. I mean, as much as I like, championing new stuff, it's like you gotta go with what's actually going to make a reasonable difference. If what you're looking to do is upgrade your sound quality, it's the room to focus on. Then the
Yes.
subwoofers. Don't worry about Atmos in this room.
So he says his wife would be okay with the center speaker on the fireplace mantle, but the front left and right would have to be in ceiling still. Could a regular center speaker on the mantle be a big improvement? Well, he didn't say anything that about intelligibility being an issue. So that
Mm-hmm.
makes me think that intelligibility is not an issue. And if intelligibility is not an issue, or localizing the sound as coming from the ceiling instead of coming from the
Right.
TV isn't an issue, then I wouldn't worry about it.
And even if intelligibility is an issue, that might be because of the seat being
The
pushed
room,
right up against
yeah,
the back wall, as
yeah,
opposed to, you put a speaker on the mantle, it still sounds that way.
that could
Um,
actually make it worse because it'd be firing directly instead of angled down towards you like
yeah.
the center panel is. It'd be firing directly at you and bouncing off the back wall and hitting you right back in the head again. Could actually make it worse.
Yeah.
Don't buy any more speakers that are not subwoofers. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two,
Yeah.
fix that. Start working on that room, and there's ways to do it, and it doesn't have to be that expensive.
That's right.
Okay, we're not suggesting that spend two, three, four, $5,000 on the in wall sub. We're saying spend 400 or 500 bucks on somebody building or you even researching how to build something around a subwoofer that you can put in your room,
Mm-hmm.
or show your wife the cylinder subs and see what she thinks about those.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's an option. Uh, you know, you could always take that cylinder sub and wrap it in whatever fabric you
Mm-hmm.
want, or build a little case around it, a little frame, a wooden frame around it, and drop it over the top of the thing, and have that covered in whatever grill fabric, and have that printed. It could even be printed
Yeah.
grill
Yeah.
fabric, so it looks like a column of some sort. I don't know. Uh,
Yep.
so I don't really think adding more speakers to this room is going to help you.
Agreed.
He asks he could learn more about Room EQ Wizard and upgrade his EQ system. I think your room's too much of a problem for you to like at this point. Odyssey's just going to go, I got nothing.
Yeah, from seat to seat, it's going to be such large variations that electronic EQ I would not be picking as your solution here.
Yeah.
This is a room acoustics problem that needs to be solved by the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his last thing is he's open to any and all suggestions since he might not have thought of the best option himself. I think you thought of it, but you discounted it before you came up with some more viable solutions. Your room is the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say I can't do anything about it. We really have had people on this podcast that had like who's that Indian dude, right? Who had that marble room, like
Mm-hmm.
everything was marble, and throwing some rugs down and doing a little bit of room treatments makes a huge difference.
Yep.
So that this is where you're going to find your improvement. Once you start getting that other stuff and you start locking down your room a little bit, and it's not going to take a lot, a couple of pictures here or there that are really and you can put frames around them. Okay,
Yeah,
you can put frames around them. Just don't put any glass. Okay,
that's right.
don't put any glass. You'll be fine. So that, yeah, and once you've done that, then we can start talking about whether or not you need more speakers or move your center channel or something like that.
Yep.
Steven watches TV in the evening after his kids are asleep. He's been using a pair of cheap Skull Candy earbuds plugged into his Xbox One controller, but would like to upgrade to some better headphones. What do we recommend for $200 or less? They can still connect to the Xbox One controller. Does it have a specialty connection to it?
Well, I'm assuming he has the little add-on thing that I bought so that I could use it with my existing chat headset, the one from
Right.
what the heck is it, Astro Gaming. But you can plug just a regular 3.5 millimeter plug into the Xbox One controller and then have sound pumped through the controller. So that becomes like your wireless connection. So that does actually work. I mean, any headphones can plug into a 3.5 millimeter jack, even if what they come with is the quarter-inch jack. It just
Yeah.
a quarter-inch to 3.5 millimeter adapter will get you done. So any headphones will plug in. I've experimented with this. It's certainly got a little bit of noise to it. I mean, it's
I would
not a
think it is a
yeah,
video game controller. It's not meant for this.
exactly. So it's not superlative as far as the audio quality goes, which makes me think maybe you don't spend a ton on the headphones you're going to be plugging into the Xbox One controller.
Yeah.
But certainly you can get better sound than the Skull Candy earbuds. So
Yes.
yeah.
He also has a 5.1 Vizio soundbar with a wireless sub and surrounds, but he couldn't find a headphone jack. Is it hidden someplace? Yeah, they don't generally have headphone jacks.
They
But
don't have a headphone jack on those Vizio soundbars, not
do they
that
have
I've ever seen.
do they have RCA outs?
No,
Okay, because
no.
that would be your other option. If it has RCA outs, you can get RCA to 3.5 millimeter and do it that way. I've done that before
So I mean, the
with diesel
question
stuff.
is whether he has all of his sources plugged. Like, is he sending video straight to his TV and audio straight to the Vizio soundbar? Because there's only a handful of inputs on the video soundbar. Or is he plugging all of his sources into his TV and then sending one audio output from the TV, usually the optical jack,
Yeah,
from the TV to the soundbar? Because if you're doing that, most TVs have either a headphone jack output or a line
or
out.
a line out of some sort. Yeah, RCA outs. So you could
Yeah.
do that.
Because I mean, you only want stereo anyway. These are going into headphones. It's not like you need surround sound. You're not worried about that.
Yeah.
So as long as there's some way to get a stereo signal out of some part of the signal chain, which could be the TV itself, then
Yeah,
you
it
could do
depends on how
that.
you've got everything hooked up.
It
So
does.
yeah. So what headphones could we recommend? Well, 200 bucks. What are these? These are 299.
Oh, the V Motas?
No, these are Oppo
Oh, the
PM3s.
Oppos.
Those are
PM3s. I think they're more than that, aren't they?
they're
Like
$299.
$400.
Are they $400?
I'll look it up.
All right.
But that's
Uh,
that's overkill for this, I think.
well, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying if you want something really nice. Audio Technicas, the ATH M50s, I like to recommend. I still do.
The
And even though that
PM3s
was
are
I
four
didn't like
hundred
them.
dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, 400 bucks, whatever. No, forget that then. Those are a good deal. Sennheiser, the Momentums are very good.
Yeah.
You could probably get those for under 200 bucks. You can look at
Yeah.
those.
I mean, Sennheiser, I love Sennheiser's open back headphones for TV watching because, I mean, granted, if someone is right next to you, they're an open back headphone, so they'll hear a little bit. But if you're talking, kids are asleep in another room, they're not going to hear open back
Well, it's at
headphones. It's not
night,
like
so it doesn't sound
it's
like
it's
why.
nothing like that. So I love the HD 598s or 558s if you want even a little less expensive. 150 bucks for the 598s. They actually come in black now. Oh my goodness, of the horrible, ugly cream and burgundy color scheme that the 598s came in before. They actually have a black version now, so yay. I can easily recommend those. They do come with a quarter-inch jack on the end of its regular cable, but the 598s come with a quarter-inch to 3.5 millimeter jack adapter. So that will totally work. Those are really nice for TV because they're so comfortable.
The Sennheiser Momentums, the big ones,
Mm-hmm.
list price 379. They're
Ooh,
217.99 with free shipping at Amazon right
okay. All
now.
right.
Those are the big ones, and there are, I think there are other one. There's a smaller one too.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here if I can find it.
Yeah,
Go on, keep going.
there's the on ear version, the
There's an
Momentum
on-ear
on
one,
ears.
yes, and those are
Um,
140 right
yeah. Now I
now.
wasn't sure. He said he was using earbuds before, so I was thinking maybe he wants in ears. So I mean those Shure 215s that I keep mentioning. So we know that. Wait, who was it who from the comment earlier who
I don't
found
know. I can't
them
remember.
uncomfortable? I'll go back and look up his name. But that aside, it was Jordan who said he didn't find them comfortable, but I find them very comfortable. So as long as you find something that fits the Shure SE215s, I do agree the Klipsch in ears, by and large, sound pretty darn good. So those are another option if you want something that goes
I'd go with those
in your
Momentums.
ears. You go with the Momentums.
That'd be my choice.
I don't disagree. They're nice.
They are nice. All right. Going back to the questions here. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, great. Infinite Gary wasn't able to integrate
Aww.
his new pair of Power Sound Audio S1500 subs, which replaced a pair of Dynaudio subs in this theater to his satisfaction. He was apprehensive about rerunning Anthem room correction by himself, but he didn't want to hire someone for a new setup that he might not even keep and might change again in the future. All the crossovers and ARC EQ settings had been optimized for his Dynaudio subs without touching these settings or only doing something simple that will allow him to super easily go back to those settings. Is there anything he could have done to make S1500 sound right in his system? So what I'm hearing here is that you took a pair of you had a pair of subs and you optimized, you ran a room correction with those subs. Then you took those subs out, you put in new subs and went, these don't sound very good, and said, huh, I like the other ones better without changing any settings. Is that what I'm
Well,
to understand here?
primarily it was he put the S15s, hundreds, the new Power Sound audio subs exactly where his Dyne audios were before, so he didn't change placement whatsoever. But correct, he did not change any settings. He left the EQ for the old subs in place, and he found that the S15s, pretty much no matter how low he turned down the volume dial, just sounded too loud. like almost painfully loud. But remember, Infinite Gary has his infinite baffle subwoofer still in the picture as well. So given that the old Dynaudio subs played essentially nothing below 35 hertz, I'm like, you could have easily just created a new standing wave. You're sitting right in the peak. That's why everything, even with it turned way down low, is crazy loud now, because the old subs just weren't playing those super low frequencies, and the new ones definitely are.
It's like getting in to test drive a car and refusing to change the seat position and saying and then judging the car ride based on that. Like, oh, this car is terrible. I could barely reach the pedals. This
Right.
car is terrible. I could barely fit in here because the seat's so close. You know, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't take two subwoofers, optimize your system for them, take them out, and then put two other ones in there without changing the settings and evaluate those things. I mean, the first thing I did when I put these new speakers in here, I didn't leave the settings. I mean, I could have put it on pure direct and disabled Odyssey and then ran these new speakers in the place of my other ones. But that's the only thing I could have done. I could not have left the Odyssey the way it was, because it was
Right.
optimized for my Aperion audio speakers. First thing I did was rerun Odyssey. First thing I did. You have to.
Yeah.
You just absolutely have to. So what could you have done? Anything other than what you did is what you could have done, basically, because you had to do something to accurately uh, evaluate these subwoofers. You had to change the room correction or disable it.
Yeah, at least, yeah. I mean, turning it off is the only super easy thing you could have done, because then you can just turn it back on and get back what you had for the Dynaudios before. You haven't changed anything. I mean,
but both
I can understand
his Dyne audio subs up front. I think I remember both up front,
They're both
and
up
he's got
front.
an infinite baffle sub in here.
Also
so
up front.
non-optimal placement of subwoofers, completely different subwoofers, and settings that are optimized for different subwoofers. Yeah, okay. You couldn't get him to sound right. Shocking. Color me shocked right now that was the case. Come on, Gary. You know better than this. But you knew that this was the answer when you wrote this question. You did. You knew this, because there's no way that was a fair test of these way more powerful subwoofers.
It is tough, because I mean, I know not everyone is comfortable with running their own room correction, but particularly if it's a do-it-yourself style or one that's run off a computer like Anthem is, it's a little bit more involved.
Right.
It's not crazy difficult. Arc is an automated setup program, very similar to Odyssey in that it just happens to run off software that's on your computer instead of all being inside of the AV receiver.
But don't they have settings that can't you save these things? You can.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Settings. So save the settings, rerun it, or whatever you have to do to rerun it, and then revert to those settings again.
And you can do that with, outside of this, you can do that with Odyssey as well, with their save and load. Again, you have to use a computer to do it. You have to log into it with its IP address, but you can save an existing setup, then change it to your heart's content, and then go back and load the original that you saved, and you have lost nothing. So yeah, that's what has to be done. I mean, the only evaluation you could do that would be at all fair would be to just turn Arc off completely. But even then, then you have to adjust positioning. Because you are dealing with something that's playing frequencies that the old ones simply weren't.
Yeah. Yeah. Gary has another audio setup in the spare bedroom. He's much more comfortable playing around with the settings in there versus theater. He's using an Emotiva UMC 200 processor and a 3.1 speaker setup. He's tried putting all of the Emotiva settings back to default and then ran their EmoQ auto setup program. The results seemed way off. The distances were wrong as measured by a tape measure, especially the subwoofer, which EmoQ said was 32 feet away when it's physically right beneath the center speaker. It said one of his speakers was wired out of phase, and rerunning EmoQ a couple of times, the subwoofer level was all over the place, sometimes super loud, sometimes way quieter. What the heck is going on? Well, it sounds like EmoQ sucks to start with, but the fact that it says that your subwoofer is 32 feet away is not shocking. It sometimes does that, and the reason is because of how long the wavelengths are of the bass, and it's basically a phase setting.
It is, yeah.
It's
a delay.
It's a delay.
It's a delay. It's not actually. I mean, they put it in the language of distance because that's something that's easy for you to measure with a tape measure and see if it said the speakers are as far away as they are, but the way it's doing it is by calculating how long it took for the sound to arrive. It's a delay setting. So with a good system, you actually don't want to change. I mean, honestly, it should only ever be the subwoofer, right? If
Right.
any of your speakers come up as being an incorrect distance, like considerably off, that's an indication of a problem. But
Right.
if it's only the subwoofer, all your speakers it nailed, it got them exactly how far away they are. But the subwoofer it says is a different distance than it physically is. Generally, it's not a good idea to change that. For example, a really obvious one is, let's say you used a wireless system, right?
Oh,
One of
right.
those wireless subwoofer signals that added some latency, and therefore it says your subwoofer is now considerably farther away than it physically is. That's because it's accounting for the delay in the wireless signal. That's one obvious example that's easy to understand what's
So
actually
by
going
saying
on
that
there.
it's 32 feet away, it's actually going to send the signal a little bit sooner than it's
That's
going to
right.
send it everything else. And the
That's right.
reason is the for the processing that's going on, the
Yeah.
base management, and then whatever is going on in the amplifier at the subwoofer, all that stuff. You do
Yeah.
not want to change that setting. That is fine.
Yeah.
Saying that one of your speakers is out of phase, very well, it sounds to me like you have a reflective room.
Could
A
be.
lot, a lot of times in reflective rooms, you find that all sorts of weirdness happens. If it's a surround speaker and your surround is like a dipole, then
Hmm.
it very well could be reading out of phase. So don't worry about that. Um, as far
But
as
this could be a microphone placement issue too.
as well, that's right.
Because a lot of these errors, particularly if it's not nailing the distances of your speakers, which is unusual, sometimes what people do is exactly what the instructions more or less tell you to do, which is put the microphone where your head is going to be. Except that's not always good advice because people put it right against the back cushion of their
Right.
seat because they're like, I lay my head against this back cushion. It said put the microphone where your head's going to be. That's against the back cushion. You need at least a foot of space all around the microphone. You
Yeah.
cannot have
I would put
anything.
mine above,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
above where
Raise it
my
up a
head.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you want at least a foot of free space in every direction around the microphone. If you don't have that, if you have it against some sort of boundary, it could be the back wall. If your seat is pushed right against the back wall
Right.
and you're like, my head basically rests against this back wall, do not put the microphone there. Move it at least a foot away from any boundary. So it could be a microphone placement issue.
So there's all sorts of things that could be going on here.
Yeah.
It could be that EMQ sucks. Could be that your microphone placement. Could be your room's reflective. We don't
Yeah.
know. But the 32-foot distance is nothing to worry about.
Cool.
Atmos and DTS X are already here, and over the next year or so, we have the release of Ultra HD Blu-ray players, a settlement of the of HDR, high dynamic range, etc. to look forward to. Was there anything yet to come in terms of audio in the near future of audio going to be stagnant, boring, and nothing but more of the same?
Have we
Wow.
not had enough change
Have we?
recently?
The last 2 years have been like completely everybody trying to change everything.
I'd
Remember,
be
what's
fine
their
with a
name came out with
plateau.
something too? Who was it? They came out with their own audio format that nobody's ever going to use. Meridian, right?
Oh,
That
yes.
came
Yeah.
out
Their
too.
MQA. Yeah.
Yeah, that came out as well. So yes, lots of things are happening, and yes, for the next couple of years, these things are going to be shaking out to
Uh-huh.
see how this goes. Next year and the year after that, it's going to be a lot of HDR talk. Uh, then we'll see. VR too is right on the horizon.
Oh, yeah.
If
Yeah.
hey, as exciting as VR is, and it is exciting, the number one thing that VR is going to bring us, other than VR, is really the importance of surround sound,
Yeah.
because people
And
are not.
object based at that.
They are going to have to be able. It's never going to be immersive if they cannot hear it the way that it should be heard,
Hmm.
and then throwing all your speakers at the front of the room or wearing crappy headphones is not going to be good enough.
Yeah. No,
It's
I
just
think
not.
we already have the object based audio, but what's really going to be cool in the coming years on the audio side is everybody figuring out how to really implement object based audio well, because it's still quite new to the industry and they're still figuring out how best to use it.
Right.
So when they're figuring out how to really start making use of object-based audio, that's going to be cool. Broadcast is going to be a huge thing because it is definitely looking like Dolby AC4 is going to be the format that is broadcast as part of ATSC 3.0. That is our Ultra HD version of broadcast television. And that is an object based audio system. And that's going to bring with it all the things of hopefully being able to adjust dialogue independently or switch between which commentators you're listening to. But having object based sound in live television could be a huge thing. That could be a really new experience that we haven't had before, but it's going to take a while to sort all that out. So, all that's coming. That's all new audio stuff.
I just the MotoGP is a motorcycle race that I don't
Mm-hmm.
get to watch anymore because I don't show it on TV here ever. I don't think. I think sometimes it's on Velocity, but I don't have cable, so that's never going to happen. But I was researching it, and if you sign up for the service and you stream it live, there are multiple camera angles and multiple things going on, and you can
Mm-hmm.
select what if you get like the premium package, you can select what you're watching. That I think is going to end up being the future of like sporting events and a lot of other stuff. There's going to be the option of watching what you are interested in, the team you're interested in, or the pits that you're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
or the cameras that you want to see. Yes, you can go with whatever with however they're doing it, but if you're interested in a specific writer, then you can say, no, I want to be in this camera because that's where that writer is, that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So all that, I mean, these are all possibilities. Will any of this happen? I don't know. Of the sound, lastly from Gary, of the sound bars we've listened to ourselves, which specific model sounded best for voice? Any of them, I guess. I don't know. I don't.
No, I
I
mean,
don't
I could
care.
say of the ones I've heard myself, Paradigms Soundscape sound bar is
That's
the
a good
best.
sound bar. I've heard that one.
It's the best sound bar I've heard. It's $1,700, so
All the
it's not
Yamaha
exactly.
ones that aren't the really all the sound projectors are all good for everything.
Yep,
So those are all good choices.
but they're pricey. So yeah, if you're
Why?
looking for an inexpensive sound bar that sounds really great, I can't really tell you I've heard one that sounds super fantastic. I can say there's the
They all sound better
Revel.
than TV speakers, which is
Yeah,
what which is actually where the bar is set.
exactly.
So if they sound better than TV speakers, then they win, and that's exactly why people buy Bose and
Yeah.
Beats by Dr. Dre because they sound better than earbuds because that's their bar.
No, I mean I can say that the Revel LCR8 is a good sounding soundbar. It's not cheap. I think it's like $1,200, and it does not have any amplification of its own. Like it is a speaker bar. It's
Right.
just three speakers in one container, so you still need an AV receiver to power the thing. It sounds good, but it's expensive and it needs an AV receiver. So, yeah, he just asked what sounded best. So Paradigm Soundscape, that's my answer. But yeah,
Paradigm's a good choice. Yamaha's too.
yeah,
Okay, so Rusty on his insistence, his dad is carving out a dedicated theater space in the basement of their new house that his dad is building. Space will be 14 and a half by 13 by 9. The main couch will be about 3 feet off the back wall.
okay.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And the room will mostly just be used by his mom and dad, although they might occasionally cram a lot of more people in there when the whole family comes over. But really, sound quality and the parents' seats are the only real concern.
Okay.
So 14 by 13, 14 and a half by 13 by 9.
Now I think he said they were going to set it up as 14 and a half feet wide by 13 feet long. So it's going to be wider than it is
Yeah,
long by
I
a little
kind of got
bit,
that. I don't
which
know
is
why.
fine.
I don't know why I
It's still
thought.
fine.
Anyways, so will a pair of SV PB 1000s, I'm sorry, SB 1000, sealed 1000s, be enough for a room of size? If not, will the PB 1000s be? Well, the PBs for sure will probably be fine in
Oh,
there.
way more than needed.
Uh,
The SB 1000s will be fine in that room size, as far as I'm
yeah,
concerned.
but for the excursion, I think I'd go with the PBs.
Oh no, come like they don't want reference volume.
I'm just saying, to go lower though. They go lower. They go quite a
But
bit
you're in this
lower.
small. You're gonna get lots of room gain in a
Whatever, I'm
room
just
this small.
saying.
The SP 1000s are fine, man. They are fine in this room size.
Tom says
Just ask
PB
Jonathan.
1000s.
Just ask Jonathan. He's
Yeah.
got a room this size. Pair of SB 1000s.
Jonathan loves his room. In
Yeah.
addition to the subs, the budget for audio is $2,000. So in
Okay.
addition to the subs, so the his subs are separate. His dad heard some Magnaplaner speakers as a kid and has remembered loving the sound ever since. There's a Magnapan dealer nearby, so he's going to take his dad to do some listening.
Good.
If the seat to seat difference isn't too extreme to cover the two prime seats, he was thinking of recommending the Magnapan's MMGs,
Okay.
Emotiva XPA 200, and the cheapest Denon or Marantz with pre-outs on accessories for less. What are our thoughts on this setup?
Is this a stereo only or is this surround sound? I
Yeah,
couldn't quite tell.
doesn't sound like it's going to be surround sound. It sounds like it's going to be Magnepans and
Like just a pair of speakers.
a couple subwoofers.
Yeah. Which is okay. I have really no problem with doing things that way. Like one pair of good
For $1,000,
speakers.
you get these bookshelf speakers I'm listening to right now, and next week I'll tell you how they sound. So,
Those are a little over the budget.
no, not they're $500 a pair. No,
Really?
$5,000 a pair.
Five?
Wait,
Yeah, that's a little over the budget.
I forgot about that. I thought they were. I don't know why I thought they were $500 a pair. I can
um,
get the grills off. I want to get the grills off to look at the speakers, but I can't. I want to rip them.
the plan of going and hearing some Magnepans if you're close to a Magnepan dealer, absolutely a great
That is
idea
100% the thing you should do.
for
And listen
sure.
to everything else while you're there.
That's right.
Everything.
That's right.
Everything, even the stuff that's too expensive, all of it, and get what he likes, and then let him decide whether or not he has the money for it. Number one, and if he doesn't, then we'll find something that sounds close enough to him.
That's
so we
right.
listen
Yeah.
to it all.
Yeah.
Uh,
The XPA 200 is being discontinued and it's not in stock right now, so I don't know if that's really an option. They're going to have their new, what are they calling that new series that they're bringing out? The Ice Amps to replace the Ultra series.
I hate iSams.
Which is why I was kind of thinking, yeah, maybe look at Outlaw because I
would
was
not
kind of
pair
thinking surround
iSamps
sound.
with a planar speaker. I would not do that.
That's
That's for me. I'm sorry. The only time I've ever heard a really easily discernible difference between amps is when I've listened to ice amp versus a not ice amp, and I was like,
yeah.
"Is an ice amp?" And that one sounds better. So, yeah, I don't think I would do that. But the rest of it's fine. The only problem with the cheapest Denon or Marantz with pre-outs and accessories for less is you really need to think about, especially if it's your dad, how technically savvy he is or they are, and making sure that it's got the features that you need.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think they're doing Atmos. That is not the goal.
Doesn't seem to be it. So, I mean,
Marantz,
if you get the X4000, it would have all the functionality you would need, and it would be like almost nothing these days if you can still find them.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I was just looking at accessories for less. The least expensive one I would go for is Marantz. This is a couple years old now, but the SR5008. It's now the 55010. That's the current model. So it's, there was a 5009 in between, but the 5008, it's like $350 or something like that. It has a full set of pre-outs and it's multi-EQ XT for room correction, which is totally serviceable. So, I mean, that's Marantz almost always includes pre-outs on their models, whereas Denon doesn't. So it'll probably be a Marantz that you end up with. But yeah, I mean, definitely look at Outlaw Audio if Emotiva isn't around for the amplifier that you want, because they're certainly the other low-cost alternative. And then for speakers, I mean, by all means, listen to the Magnepans. If they love them, I have zero problem with getting those because they're great. But he was asking, like, if the MMGs turn out to, like, if it's too small a sweet spot, because they do want at least 2 seats, what else they might look at. I'm actually thinking of those new Emotiva speakers that they announced at CES, which should be hitting market fairly soon.
Airmotive ones?
Yeah, the Airmotives. They'd be worth consideration. I don't know what I'm pretty sure you have to pay shipping both directions with Emotiva, so it's not super inexpensive.
The Pyrion, the new Varus 2s.
Yeah. Varus Grand.
Probably a good option there.
I trust those are going to be very good speakers.
Yeah.
I mean, give SVS a try because it's free shipping both ways, so why the heck not?
Right. And that's what I'll have the Primes and the Ultra set up in here after I finish speakers. So you'll hear about those as well. Yeah, they're all good options, but while you're there, you should be listening to everything. And hopefully, like Kefs and Revels and some other ones that are out there, listen to
some
all
Golden
of that
Ears, because
stuff.
Golden Ears have those folded ribbon tweeters too. If they have Martin Logan, right? Because Martin Logan, not just the Electrostats, which might be above the price range, but they have their Motion series with their folded ribbon tweeters. Those are worth a listen to. Heck, listen to some Klipsch. Maybe that'll really float his boat, because they'll probably have some Klipsch speakers there wherever you go. So
and if your dad's like my dad, my dad can't hear anything. It's pathetic. And some Klipsch speakers that are nice and bright that with a lot of high end energy might be exactly what he wants.
Exactly.
These planar speakers, which sound so great, only sound great if you can hear all that little nuance, and my dad can't hear nothing. So Ian is looking at getting either an Elite Screen Spectrum Series or a Saker Series electric acoustically transparent screen. He's not sure which one is the best for him. The Spectrum Series is cheaper but not tensioned and is 5 inches larger than this projector can fill. You see, right there, I
Uh-huh.
was I was like, it's cheaper. Okay, good. Not tension. Fine, I can live with that. 5 inches larger than this projector can fill. Deal breaker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, that's a flat out deal breaker. That's like saying, hey, I really like this car, but it doesn't have wheels. What? It doesn't have wheels. All my analogies this week are going to be cars
Mm-hmm.
because my wife's car imploded and we now have to buy a new car. So excited
Ooh.
about that because we don't have the money. But what are they going to do? Anyways, blah, 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 blah. The Saker is the perfect size and tension, but it is almost twice as expensive. He's not concerned about small improvements in picture quality, so his tension really that important. His current screen isn't tensioned, and he's never noticed any waviness. If the Saker really is that better product, he'll get it, but does he actually need it?
So he said acoustically transparent, woven. I can't imagine not having tensioning for that.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I
you
mean, I
have to.
really can't. The spaces are very small, but they need to be uniform. Otherwise, it impacts the sound significantly. Like, just imagine you have a weave, it's not under tension, so the holes are all different sizes, right? Is basically what happens.
So he's saying that that Spectrum series is not tensioned
That's
and it is
correct.
acoustically transparent.
I mean, they do have one that's they say is acoustically transparent. They say it's like self-supporting, but I'm like, I can't fathom ever using an acoustically transparent screen that is not tensioned. I mean, either by being a fixed frame and therefore tensioned against the frame,
So
or
he
being a
wants to have
tensioned
something that
electric.
drops down. That's
Yeah.
that's the deal.
I mean, believe me, Ian, I would love to tell you to get the cheaper one if I thought it was a good idea, but my personal opinion is that it's not a great idea. I would never buy an acoustically transparent screen that's not tensioned. That's me.
To me, okay, frankly, to me, the not being tensioned doesn't bother me as much as it bothers Rob.
Okay.
Rob's probably right when it comes to your, how well the acoustically transparent part works. That said, there's going to be a huge impact on the audio. I don't. First of all, I don't know. This guy might have crap
Yeah.
speakers for all I know, so who knows? But that doesn't bother me, and the waviness doesn't bother me either. I mean, yeah, some people aren't bothered by it, and I'm okay with that. But
Mm-hmm.
not being the right size,
Eh.
that's just it, dude. I mean, there's no that's the end of it. You've got to go with something that's the right size. Keep looking, see if there's any other options out there for you.
Yeah.
Uh, but frankly, acoustically transparent and
And electric roll
an
down.
electric roll down is not cheap. Uh, and there's I don't know of any DIY solution that you can do
Mm.
to to this Spectrum series one where you could increase the border somehow that would not
Mess up the
ruin
rolling mechanism.
ruin the
Yeah.
rolling mechanism. You know, you couldn't really
Mm.
add anything. I couldn't even imagine painting it. I mean, I just think I think anything you would do would just be a terrible idea. So, yeah, calls
Yep.
Elite Screens and see how much it would be
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah. Just
get
get
the right size
exactly the
because
size
they
you want. Yeah.
do that. I know they do that.
Mm-hmm.
All of them do that.
Yeah. They'll charge you. Usually, what they'll do is they'll charge you the same price as the standard size that is larger than the size that you want,
Right.
which is fair,
Which
honestly.
is what you're looking at anyways. So
Exactly.
give me the thing, except I want that as big as what you make it. I want it
Yeah.
smaller than that, and
Yeah.
they'll see what they say.
Yeah.
Lastly, the screen will be hung on chains from an open beam sloped ceiling away from the wall.
Uh huh.
Do we see any problems with this?
Nope.
Nope. I
Chains are
don't.
fine, man.
Hey,
When
works
I
for
had
me.
a pull down screen, I had it on hooks instead of chains, but same idea.
Yep, I have actually the one that I don't use because the material is disintegrated is on a special mount thingy. But
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't have that, I was going to hang it from chains.
Hmm.
Mark, since we saved him from getting double receivers to increase Atmos capability, he now has extra money for a Blu-ray player. Now, last week we talked about this after the podcast with Ray, and technically you can use two receivers to make both
Three. Ray's solution was three
three
receivers. Yes, because
receivers.
you needed one regular Atmos receiver, and you would set it to output top fronts and top rears. But you would feed Okay, so you just take the right hand side, right? So you have your
Right.
top front right and your top rear right, and you would take the pre-outs for those and feed them as a stereo signal into a AV receiver with Dolby Pro logic to derive a center channel, which of course, Dolby Pro Logic will derive a center channel from left and right. Well, this time it's top front and top rear, so it's deriving a top middle, but you need two of them because you need to derive two center channels. Honestly, Ray, that is not a solution.
It's a technical solution. It is a solution to a stupid, stupid problem.
It's ridiculous.
All right, let's go back to Mark. I'm talking about this more.
Okay.
Since he saved him from getting double receivers to increase Atmos capability, he now has extra money for a Blu-ray player. He's using a 1080p projector until 4K options appear under $2,500. But he has some questions about UHD players anyway.
Okay.
So, Ultra HD players. So, if you play an Ultra HD Blu-ray, will it output 1080p signal and will it look better than the standard Blu-ray? We don't actually know.
No, for sure. Yeah.
There's no way of knowing this because there's no such thing as an Ultra HD Blu-ray player at this time. But in theory, it should be able to down convert that to 1080p. In theory, it should.
I really am wondering if it will, because all of the Ultra HD Blu-ray discs that you can buy include a regular Blu-ray in the package. Now, why would they do that if you could play an Ultra HD Blu-ray on a 1080p TV? Right?
Yeah, but if no, I don't think so. I think that you'll be able to set the output on your Ultra Blu-ray player to be 1080p. I think you'll be able to do that.
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. Maybe, hopefully, in fact. But I'm thinking with the whole HDCP 2.2 thing and the fact that they're packing in a Blu-ray with every single disc, I'm betting if you take an Ultra HD Blu-ray
they're packing the Blu-ray in with every disc so that people who have not upgraded yet will still buy it. Will still pay the extra for the Ultra HD version in hopes that someday they'll get
a player
4K TV in a set,
maybe
in the player.
I'm thinking there's a possibility that you take an Ultra HD Blu-ray player, you plug it into a 1080p TV, you put in an Ultra HD Blu-ray disc, and all you get is a message that says you need a Ultra HD TV to view this content. Like, I would not be shocked if that is the case.
I would be shocked. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I don't know. I'm thinking it could be, but yeah.
Secondly, will Ultra HD Blu-ray players play DVDs?
They don't have to.
Probably.
I mean, the Samsung has said it will.
Yep.
The Panasonic has said it will. The Philips has said it will. So they're all taking the option to play DVDs, but it is not a requirement.
Well, they're probably going to play CDs too. So
I know that's also not a requirement. The Panasonic will not play 3D Blu-rays though, because that's also optional and won't play them.
Then no one cares. If the above are true, which would be better purchase now? An Ultra HD player that doesn't exist, or an Oppo BDP 103 to take advantage of its premium up conversion capabilities?
Could I vote neither? I mean, if what you're watching are Blu-rays, just get an inexpensive Blu-ray player because it looks the same as the Oppo when you're playing Blu-rays.
Now, if you're playing DVDs and other things, then yes, the Oppo makes sense. I think it makes sense over an Ultra HD player when those come out, because when they first come out, they're not going to have the premium up conversion stuff.
And none of them have outright said they support Dolby Vision. There's some people are saying the Philips might, but we don't know for sure. Like, honestly, I wouldn't buy any of these first generation Ultra HD Blu-ray players. Like,
it's never a good idea to do that.
Yeah,
it just never is.
I mean, unless you're the person who buys one every 8 months anyway, so it's no worries. Okay, but we don't have to tell you that because you're that person.
All right. How much time do we have left here? Oh, we got time for one more.
15 minutes.
Toby watched a video by a guy who calls himself the home theater junkie, who recommends setting your mains to large if you have towers, so you hear what the mixer intended. Wow, that guy lives in like 1999.
Yeah.
So that what he means is that if they meant it to be played by the subwoofer, they would have mixed it in the LFE channel, and if the bass is mixed into a particular speaker, it should play back from that speaker.
I mean,
Guy
there's
clearly
logic
does
there.
not understand how sound works. Let's start
That's
with
right.
that.
There is a form of logic in that thinking.
Yes,
I
there
get
is.
it. And we've all gone through that thought
We
process.
have.
Tom and I have both gone through that thought process. So
That's right.
I don't think there's any malice on the part of this person giving this
No,
advice. It's
he
not
just has
that.
not changed his opinion
That's
in
right.
20 years. Toby had his tower set to small, but this guy seems to say that if you cross over at, say, 80 hertz and the speakers are set to small, everything from 80 hertz to 120 hertz, including the LFE channel, will be lost. That is wrong. Like
No.
all that is all of the wrong. In fact, you
That's
couldn't have been more wrong. Like if you even tried. The whole idea of crossing it over means that you take the content that's being sent to that speaker, the omnidirectional content that you can't tell where it's coming from anyways, taking it out of the speaker that's not in the right place for that bass and putting it into the place where the bass can be played the best and is optimized placement wise, which is where your subwoofers should be placed. So opposing corners or something like that. You
Mhm.
don't lose anything.
Now, he was also saying because there is that separate LPF for LFE setting that we've
Yeah,
talked
but
about
that's
before,
different.
the low pass filter for LFE. This is something I want to go over a little bit because people tend to use the word LFE and subwoofer interchangeably,
Right.
and they aren't. Because the LFE stands for low frequency effects and it is its own separate channel, just like your left front channel, your center channel. And the center channel is actually a good analogy because just like you can take the center channel and say, I don't have a center speaker, and then the center channel gets split into and played by the front left speaker and the front right speaker together to create a phantom center. Now, you still had a center channel in the recording, but it's not being played by a center speaker. The LFE channel can be the same thing. The LFE channel does not have to be played by a subwoofer. The LFE channel could be played by your front left and right speakers. If you say, I don't have a subwoofer,
That's
your
exactly
AV
what it'll do.
receiver will, yeah, your AV receiver will automatically set your front left and right speakers to large if you say I do not have a subwoofer at all, and then the LFE channel gets played by the front left and right speakers. So it's really important to realize that the LFE is its own separate channel, and that low pass filter setting for the LFE is only for the LFE channel. It's not
Yeah.
for the crossed over bass, it's not for the subwoofer, it's a setting for that channel within the recording. And there you're saying, where do you want this to roll off on the top? And he's saying, well, if you crossed over all your speakers at 80, you have to set the LPF for LFE to 80 as well. No, you do not.
No, you don't. No,
You
no.
don't. It's a completely separate channel. You can leave that at 120 hertz, the default, and it doesn't affect any of the other speakers. It's
That's right.
completely its own channel.
Now, if you what this guy said is if you set everything to 80 hertz and his speakers are set to small, everything from 80 to 120, including in the LFE channel, all that stuff will be lost. Well, that's only first of all, that's only true, or even kind of true, if you were able to set your speakers to small and your subwoofer to no. Then you would cross
Which,
them over, and
yeah, you
all
can't
that
do that.
information would have no place to go. Okay. That's the only way that would be true. So if you have a subwoofer and you set your crossover to 80 hertz, then any information, there's a roll off on both sides. Any information that's supposed to be playing from 80 hertz on down will be sent to your subwoofer.
Mhm.
Okay. So Toby, I can't say his name right. Toby's got a Denon 3805. And it doesn't have any LFE settings at all unless the mains are set to large. So not wanting to miss any sound, Toby has sent his mains to large and turned LFE plus mains on. Is this how it should be set, or is he confused? You are not confused, sir. You are being misled.
Yeah.
But yeah, LFE plus mains, usually it's a little bit different from receiver to receiver.
Yeah.
Usually means that your mains as well as your subwoofer is playing the low frequency effects channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is not what you want. What you want is for your subwoofers, plural, to be playing your LFE, and that's it. Your mains are optimized to make a good image. They're optimized to give you a good image, the in a three-dimensional space between them of the sound. Okay, they are not placed optimally to give you the best bass in your room. No, that's where your subs are. Your subs are in
Mm-hmm.
opposing corners or mirrored across the room in some way. Okay, that is those are the ones that should be playing all of that bass. That's why we send it to small and we set our crossover to 80 hertz. And we don't listen to guys who call themselves the home theater junkie because they are wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
Yeah, honestly, all the stuff that he was saying, it is not unusual at all. I've heard lots of people giving the exact same advice from years
Professionals.
ago and still today. Exactly,
Yes.
yeah. Professionals, installers, all kinds of people. So, which is why I don't think there was an ounce of malice in any of the info this guy
No.
was saying. I think he genuinely believes it. It's what he's heard, it's what he's read, and he's just repeating it. So there's no like foul here. But the information is not correct. It is not the optimal way to set things up. And the way to think of it is if you have, let's say there's a bass sound that is only mixed into the left channel, into the front left channel, that's where the sound is mixed, but you have the left front speaker play that sound, now it is going to be different in every seat. From seat to seat, it's going to sound different. Whereas if you have that bass played by subwoofers, which are always in the same position, and no matter what channel the bass is mixed into, the subwoofers play that bass, now the wave pattern remains the same. No matter which channel had the bass in it, any of the speaker channels or the dedicated LFE channel, wherever the bass is, the wave pattern in your room stays the same because your subwoofers are always playing it. It's not bouncing around from speaker to speaker based on the channel. That's why this setup of all speakers always set to small and leaving the LFE channel alone and
And
having your
remember,
subwoofer handle the bass
there very well
works.
may be audio cues within the harmonics
Sure.
or a bunch, within the mix that are localizable. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this omnidirectional bass is coming from all around you. You can't localize that anyway, anyways, but there may be parts of that audio where that is in the frequency range that you can localize. That will stay in the speaker that is or in, between the speakers or wherever it's being mixed so that you hear that sound and the rest of the omnidirectional sound at the same time and your brain says that all came from that one
Mm-hmm.
place. Okay, you're not going to miss where it came from. It doesn't matter that it's not coming from that same thing. That
Yeah.
is omnidirectional. That means it doesn't matter if you had all full range, you know speakers in every single seat, you should still cross them all over into the
Yep.
subwoofers.
Oh, that was the other thing. He was like, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if you had towers all around you so all your speakers could be set to large?" Which is again old thinking. It's like,
Old,
no,
old,
that
old
wouldn't be
thinking.
great.
That would not be great. It's not great. It's exactly the wrong way to do things. Used to be the right way to do things before Floyd Toole did all of his research and came up with the breakthrough that he did, which is, hey, we actually don't care what your room looks like. We just care that your subwoofers are in opposing corners. Everybody was like, what? Because for a long time, that's not how we play subwoofers. And we never thought two was that much better than one. Two,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times people were taking two and just putting them right up underneath their mains, right next
Exactly.
to their,
Yeah.
or right in the front corners or something. And they didn't sound that much better because they were improperly placed and no one knew it. Now we know.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we change our thinking and we change our advice. My advice when I started this podcast would have been similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 2007. It is now 2016. I have changed my advice because I do not just sit back and keep spewing the same thing over and over again, refusing to listen to advancements in technology. I remember one time, and this is a true story. I was driving with my grandfather. He had come to pick me up because I was living in his house, uh, rent free while I was going to school, and he would come and have me do chores. So he came to pick me up to go help him cut the grass at one of his other houses. On the way to his house, he said, Tommy, soap is weird. Don't you think soap is weird?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess, yeah, soap's weird." He's like, "How's soap even work?" I'm like, "Well, we just went over this in school." Because I was in the chemistry class. I was taking the chemistry class, and we just talked about this. Soap is an emulsifier. That means that half the molecule dissolves in water, and the other half dissolves in oil. And the oil in your skin mixes with the dirt that's in your skin. And when you rub the soap on yourself, and half of it dissolves in that oil and whisks away that dirt, and half of it dissolves in the water, and that's how the soap works. And he looked at me and goes, "Huh? But how does it work?" I'm like, that's a man who's done. He's like, "Nope, I don't need to learn anything else. I'm old. I'm done. Right? I refuse
It's
to be that dude.
magnets.
You know?
Magnets. How do they work?
Yeah. So I just I refuse to be that guy. And this guy right here really needs to not be the guy he's being
You know
right
what? He
now.
might not even be. I mean, it's a YouTube video. He put it up when he put it up.
And could
Maybe
have
he's
been a
changed
hundred
his
years
tune
ago. Yeah, we
by
don't know.
now. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't want to peg anything on this guy because I don't think he's a bad guy in the least. I just think this particular video, what's said in this video, is no
Is wrong.
longer correct.
Yes. And that's fine. Like we said,
Absolutely. Gotcha. I mean, heck, you can go back and listen to really old episodes of AV Rant, and there'll be advice there that
that I
we
would
no
not agree
longer
with
agree
right
with.
now. That is
Yeah.
exactly true. That I would no longer agree with, and I full on admit that. So when people are like, "How can I get the really old episodes?" I'm like, "I hope you can't." Thank you very much. You got 2 years
Do
half
not
life on this
do
podcast.
not
After
take
that,
our television recommendation from 8 years ago.
that's right.
It's no longer applies.
That's right. All right, Chris and Michael and Zach. Who's got all the questions? I'm still
It's a
going.
lot of, I mean, a lot, actually, all of these later ones are mostly updates in that. So we can hopefully breeze through them at the beginning of next podcast.
James and Jonathan are last there. Those are the people that we will cover next week. If you send the podcast question into the podcast today, which is Monday,
Uh huh.
then I haven't mentioned you yet. So I know I did get one donation from somebody today that will make it on next week's podcast.
Okay.
But to thank our listeners of the week, Justin, Andrew, Zach, Lance, and Christian, thank you for your donations.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. It is very much appreciated, and it's very nice to see new names and more names. I love it.
Yes. And Robert for talking us to SVS. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
If you would like to get your question answered on the podcast, all you have to do is email us at rob@avrant.com, tom@avrant.com, and question@avrant.com, where you'll get our producer, Austin Pond, who will put it onto the question list and it will all show up. Go to www.avrant.com, leave us a comment there, facebook.com/avrantpodcast. It's a good place to leave a question as well. We answer that quite readily. Lastly, you can get at First Reflect for Rob on Twitter, at avrant_Tom for me, and at Austin Pond for Austin. Our producer also has his own podcast. It is We Watch Movies.
Mm-hmm.
It is a podcast solely about cardboard boxes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
That's a
It doesn't
large
sound very
topic.
interesting, but honestly, the
That's a
things,
big
the
topic.
crafts and the products that they make out of those cardboard boxes is quite spectacular. Really nice.
What was that Kevin Costner movie where he owned a box company and he was a serial killer? It's Mr. Something.
I saw that
some people
movie,
know.
and I couldn't tell you.
It had Dane Cook in it,
Did he die?
which is a bad mark against it. Does anyone care if I spoil it?
We
It's
don't
Dane Cook. Kevin Costner is a serial killer. You do the math.
All right. For AV Rant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
And the after party will start in a few, though I will not be sticking around for long today.